Okay, so here we go. Want to thank everybody for tuning in this week, and it's a pretty cool episode that we got lined up. And it kind of falls into place with everything that I've been talking about, in terms of investing in real estate and buying houses and ways to work your mortgages. And, this episode is really going to pull everything together because we've got a guest who is someone I've worked very closely with, have a lot of respect for, and kind of grew up. It's funny because his story resonates with me in terms of how I grew up. So anybody who knows me knows that I don't have any time for people who don't hustle and don't work their fucking ass off. So a lot of the times you see second generation and third generation business owners, and they just come from a really, well-established family and business where their parents have worked hard to build this up, and they don't have that drive and that hunger to succeed. That's really buried in a lot of us entrepreneurs. So Pat Nadeau, he is one of the top real estate agents in our area. And his family, his father, Pierre, who I knew first, A1 guy, very successful real estate agent. I had the same idea about Pat until I did my research. And I found out that he started in the real estate office at a very young age, but it wasn't selling properties. It was cleaning the bathrooms. So that's kind of how he was introduced into the business. And it was very similar to the way that I was introduced into the business. And that's at the very bottom. You start at the bottom, you grind, you learn every single job on the way up. And that's how she goes. Is that a true story?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he definitely, anybody that knows me personally, like my friends and stuff growing up especially, knows that there wasn't much like handed to me. He definitely wanted me to work for it and earn it. Obviously just the way that he did too, right?
Absolutely. And it's like, it really creates a type of person, because when you talk to Pat, and you guys you'll understand by the end of this how hungry and passionate he is about business and about his business. And we were talking before we started to record, and one of the things that came up was relationships in business. And as younger business people and millennials, we often don't see the value in relationships that we used to. But Pat and myself, we both agreed that relationships are number one, right?
100%.
So we've got a couple questions here that we're going to just jump right into, and we're going to see how sharp Pat actually is on this. So we've been, last few weeks, we've been talking to you guys via social media, and we've got, we had tons and tons of questions come through, and they were all awesome, and we appreciate that. But I kind of picked out the ones that I thought would be most beneficial to people listening, and here we go. So right now, we're familiar with, the current state of everything that's happening. Mortgage rates right now are at an all-time low. So I have a follower, and they were asking, is it smart to pull equity out of your house at a low interest rate and invest it in something that's going to produce a higher return?
Absolutely. I mean, if the numbers make sense, why not? I mean, with, like you said, the banks they're basically giving away free money right now, like at 1.92 or 1.83%. I don't know how they could get lower than that. So when you're able to borrow that much money at that rate, why wouldn't you? But my first point at the beginning there is what it all comes down to, is the numbers have to make sense.
Yeah.
As long as they make sense, why not?
Okay, because oftentimes you get like people are especially the older generations, I find, and I'm sure you run into this all the time, where they have this mentality where pay everything down. I don't want to have debt, and don't borrow. So cancel all your debt out and just live and save your money. Is there any merit to that statement, or like how do you do it? What methods do you use?
I mean, yeah, obviously the concept of having less debt is a good concept. And obviously that, like you said, the older generations, that's kind of what they grew up on. To me, I mean, I think that acquiring more assets, especially assets that are paying you money, like rental properties and so on, flips, whatever. If you have an asset that's paying you more money or paying you more money than as much as you have into it or more, it's a no-brainer to me. Especially with the consistency in the Kingston market, historically, and the prices going up and so on, you're only building those assets up. So, you could save your money and go buy something that's going to depreciate in value, or you could borrow money and put it into, I mean, I look at people every day borrowing tons and tons of money, on vehicles. I have a client I was talking to the other day that I won't mention the dealership, but he said he signed bills of sales where the interest that was going to be paid on the vehicle was more money than the vehicle he drove. And I was like, okay, so they just borrowed money. And this happens every day. I mean, it's keeping up with the Joneses, right? We're borrowing all this money at a high interest rate for something that's going to depreciate in value. And that happens every single day. Go drive by our car lot right now in a global pandemic. There's nothing there. Yeah. So people are buying that stuff left, right, and center. Yet, I don't know what they're paying on this, 5-6%, let's say. You're going to go borrow 1.2% and you're going to make money on that. To me, it's a no-brainer,
It's funny how you say that, because it's such a simple concept. Just look at there. It's not rocket science. It's not calculus. We're not really these numbers to figure this out, how to make money doing this stuff. It's not really difficult. So the fact that, a lot of us are really caught up in how we look and what we drive and this stuff we have, it's nice to have that. And we all like to have nice stuff, but we can't jeopardize our well-being and our family and, our savings for a rainy day to look good.
And wouldn't it be nice if you had an asset that paid for that liability?
Exactly.
So I think, the way to go is going for something that's going to pay you first as opposed to going to something that's going to depreciate value, obviously.
Totally. So on that note, you had mentioned the Kingston market heating up. There's a lot of, values are increasing. What do you have to say to people who are thinking that the market is going to top out, or there's going to be a correction, in the Kingston market, in the Toronto market, or, do you foresee prices to continually increase over the foreseeable future?
Nobody can predict the future. I don't have a crystal ball, but I can talk about historically what's happened. And the first thing that happened the first thing I did when we found out that there was a global pandemic going on was I called a lot of the older realtors in town, and I said, what did 2008 look like? Yeah. Because we've been in a situation, right? We've been in a position like this before, and how I wanted to know how we were affected, what I could expect, and what I can do, because there were agents that made it through, and everything else. But Kingston, for whatever reason, I think it's based on the two influences of Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. We're smack dab in the middle of three different cities where the sale price is a lot higher than us, and we've always been positively affected by them. But what those agents told me, the ones that I respected and talked to, they said they were barely even influenced. Kingston didn't go down; it leveled out, but it didn't continue to go up. It leveled out, but we didn't take a drop like some of the places in the United States did. With my company, I've talked to a lot of people in that time where those properties went down, but I think in any market too, the other thing to be said is there's an opportunity in everything. So I look at 2008 and those guys in the States, there was guys just picking up, huge amounts of property at next to nothing. So, but as far as a correction moving forward, I think Kingston's been solid historically. We've gone up 2% per year until 2017, 10% every year over that. This year, we're going to even probably more than that. It's odd to hear it, but this pandemic has positively affected the real estate industry. I think people sat at home for 2 months and realized, yeah, I don't have enough room for the wife and kids. I need to, get something bigger. And with the rates being so low, a lot of first-time buyers are trying to enter the market as well. So I don't foresee anything in the near future happening. Obviously, I can't tell what's going to happen with this pandemic or where that's going to lead, but Kingston's been on the rise big time.
Okay. So, and I've got a question about first-time home buyers here that we're going to come into, but there's something that Pat said, and it fucking resonates with me, just the way he speaks, because I say this time and time again. People need to listen. If you're in business, listen to older guys who have done it, because they're so generous with their knowledge. They want to fucking see young entrepreneurs succeed. They've done it. Older business women, older businessmen, they've all done it. They've been through the same stuff. It's all cyclical. So when he's reaching out to these guys who have lived through something very similar in 2008, that's number one. So anybody who's listening who, if you're a young entrepreneur and you want to know, how do I start? What do I do? Reach out to other people in business, because it's invaluable information. You can't buy that. You can't buy that on the internet. You can't buy a book. This is real life stuff. So, that was just an interesting point that I wanted to touch on.
Success leaves clues, right?
Absolutely. 100%, man. Okay. So you had mentioned the, first time home buyers, and we had a question come in, and they had mentioned, when do we know that it's the right time to pull the trigger on purchasing our first home versus renting?
Always, 100% of the time. Why pay somebody else's mortgage is a simple answer to that. Sooner than later, though. I look at the perfect example for me is somebody who in 2016, which I had people that I personally talked to in 2016, which is the year before the market went nuts. And they said, well, we're going to wait, we're going to keep renting, and we're going to save some more money. Well, for one, you're not really saving much more money because you're paying somebody else's mortgage. But the waiting game is not the way to go, because waiting is only going to cost you money. So enter the market and let that asset go up in value, as opposed to paying somebody else's mortgage that's going up in value for them.
That makes total sense. And I feel the same way, because your mortgage payment, especially with the price of borrowing money right now, your mortgage payment is really not going to be that much more than your rent payment. 100%. I mean, you're going to have costs associated, but
I honestly think that's what people don't understand. I don't think people do the math on what it's going to cost them. And there's a very, very easy way. I send this out to a lot of first-time buyers, or people who are even considering, or my buddies who are still renting that I'm smacking in the head. You can just look up a mortgage calculator. There's hundreds of apps. Run the numbers. You need 5 to 10% down, depending on what you want to save and what you want to do. Run the numbers and reverse engineer what it's going to cost you, because I think a lot of people would be very, very surprised. And if you don't want to do it that way, call me, I'll connect you, or connect with a mortgage broker, and they can run the numbers for you. But it's literally as easy as that. And downloading the app and running the numbers, reverse engineering it. But I think a lot of people, once they find out, especially with the rates right now, it's nuts. When they figure out what it actually would cost them a month to carry a home, it's pretty much the same as renting.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, 100%.
It's absolutely mind-blowing.
100%.
And